Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
All right, what's going on, everybody? 11:02 on Edmonton Sports Talk. It is Nielson. It is The Lock Shop. I am live coming at you from Boston Pizza on Kingsway. If you want to swing by for lunch today, doors just opened. And there's already a table of like 9, 10, 11 dudes over on the far side. But we're kind of in the back here. We got a few tables. If you want to swing on by, you can pop them by and join us today for the Lock Shop. We're going to be here for the oil stream as well. The oil stream, of course, presented to you by Boston Pizza. Tommy Gazzola and YouTube Trev are both coming down for the oil stream today. Huss, back at the scene of the crime here, where we actually met YouTube Trev for the first time. We were sitting like 6 feet to the left. This kid with a mustache at the bar comes up and is like, hey, I'm a huge fan of you guys. I went to broadcast school in Lethbridge and yada, yada, yada. He's bringing us on the air today, buddy.
8 to 10 beers later, you're just sending him a Boston Pizza napkin and saying, here's your contract, kid.
Here's the deal, kid. Here's the deal. Just took a couple of fish bowls and we were on our way.
There's a lot of great relationships that have started in the lounge at Boston Pizza, and YouTube Trev and Edmonton Sports Talk is just one of them.
You know what's crazy is that there probably have been a lot of great relationships. We're talking marriages, we're talking business partnerships that have started in Boston Pizza lounges. So swing on down and join us today. We'll get into some of their specials. They got the new summer menu, or not the summer menu, the new menu that they've got laid out right now, new lunchtime menu. And they got this deal here that your choice of a main and then a side and a drink for only $15. And if it's not ready for you in less than 20 minutes, your next lunch is free on the house. So they're like bringing people in at lunchtime and turning them around. So, and also this, Hush, you'll appreciate this from back in your day. Every Friday night here at the BP Kingsway, 11440 106th Street, is trivia night. Do you remember hosting trivia nights? Yes.
Listen, well, it's kind of funny you say that because this is a nice little plug for our Winnipeg peeps. A week today, we're going to be at the Boston Pizza Polo Park, kicking off our of course, our great favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug, is now teamed up with BP. We're getting it in there. So we got a watch party for the Jets and Red Wings a week today, 6:30, BP Polo Park. Come by. We'll have a few 1919s. I will be asking some trivia questions. We will have some extra prizes for everybody. So it'll be good. Who knows? I mean, that's a week away, and there are some big games. But if the Jets keep on rolling like this, I'll be honest. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we've got Seattle on Thursday and then Calgary on Saturday night.
Oh, that's a huge game.
And Dusty, if I am walking into Allegiant Stadium on Sunday with the Jets at 8-0 and the Chiefs at 6-0, ready to go 7-0 against my hated nemesis, the Las Vegas Raiders, we could have a legendary Sunday night. I think it's going to be that way anyways. However, maybe not quite as legendary as Savage the Plumber, who is in the chat.
Is he in the chat?
He's in the chat. If you missed it, 13-game parlay. You saw the video put up. He said, hey, Huss and Dusty, just wanted to come in here and say, hi, I missed yesterday's Lock Shop, but watched it last night and laughed pretty hard. I did work, sadly, and I had a pretty unreal night. And then said the plan with the winnings is a little into savings, and currently speaking with Matt from Paris Jewelers. Shh, don't tell Renee. The Lock Shop, the Coolbet, a 13-game banger could, speaking of great relationships, starting at Boston Pizza. I mean, Savage, we're crossing our fingers for you, buddy. But it's been your week. I'd say if you've got a feeling, go for it right now because everything's coming up. Savage the Plumber.
This would be the all-time EST love story here, buddy. So let me bring you up to speed on Savage. So Savage would go and join Eric last NFL season, like every Monday and Thursday night at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, where Rick hosts Monday and Thursday night. Renee is the manager of the lounge. They ended up becoming an item. They've been together for like 10 months. And if he uses some of these winnings on an engagement ring for Renee, that to be fueled by Coolbet's winnings for a relationship that started at an EST event, I mean, I'm dead.
Do you have your marriage license? Have you ever married anybody?
I might have to. Like, you remember? I don't know. I guarantee you probably never watched The Notebook, but The Notebook,
No.
eat your heart out. Eat your heart out, Notebook. It's
I got a notebook here. It's got football picks, and it's got the Jet game schedule and which tickets I have for each game. That's my notebook.
That's your notebook. That sounds about right. So I'm just trying to think here. I was talking to YouTube Trev about it off the air today. Your teams are on like an all-time great run right now. You've got the Bombers are 8-1 in their last 9. I think their one loss you didn't attend, right? Weren't you? You weren't there for that.
Yeah, I was at the home opener for the Jets.
Exactly. And then beyond that, the Chiefs have won 6 in a row. And the Jets have not lost yet this season. Like you've not suffered a defeat. How long now? This is ridiculous.
I will say the vibes from the Bombers' second half of the season and the Chiefs seem to be kind of sprinkling onto the Jets right now. I'm not sure what the correlation is, but I will take it. And another great game last night for Winnipeg going into St. Louis. Tough divisional game. Very, very different game. I mean, I'll be honest, and I kind of said this through the first 3-4 games, like, hey, listen, the team's playing well and they're winning. The defense is there. Hellebuck's been awesome. They're scoring some goals. But there hadn't been a lot of bite in these games. I mean, the first few were, I don't want to say they were no-hitters, but I mean, listen, there just wasn't a lot of intensity, and I think that happens often earlier on in the season. The game last night was different. And again, there was only one penalty on each side. There was no fights, but it was a heavy game. Adam Lowry was throwing his weight around. That line was freaking awesome. And it was interesting to see in a game like that. I think that's the concern for a smaller player like Cole Perfetti. I mean, can he contribute and can he hang in a bit of a tougher, rougher game? And listen, he had 3 points on all 3 goals in the second period that completely flipped the game around. And we talked so much about special teams last year. The Jets are number 1 in the league, expected goals per 60 in special teams right now. They're number 1 in a lot of things, but the power play and their penalty kill, but especially the power play, has been night and day. And, you know, they worked on it a ton in the preseason and in training camp. And, you know, it seems like they're benefiting from that right now. So heck of a start at 6-0. And we know that these points all count now. A heck of a lot, you know, just as much as they will at the end of the season. So a great start right now for Winnipeg. And I will say it was kind of weird to see what happened with the squad in Edmonton last night. Tough one at the end against Carolina, of a game that you kind of feel like you had to have when you had that 2-goal lead. Oh, Dusty's frozen. Well, we're going to get Dusty back in here in just a minute. Let's see what's going on in the chat right now. Yes, it's just all about Savage the Plumber and this potential and then this potential engagement. Jake's got this one. Start writing the script and we'll have a Coolbet produced Hallmark movie for Christmas 2025. And yes, Dusty, you can get a temporary marriage license. And it is super easy. What else? Yes, Surveyor Brett, how many AM Nasties make the invite list? Savage the Plumber, how many want to come to Vegas? Oh, I have a feeling there'll be plenty of lock shoppers that'll be wanting to do that as well. Yeah, and the Dusty does have an absolutely perfect freeze. He's just, you know, he's got that sort of swaggy side pose, and he's just staring us. He's just staring us down right now. Matt Hyman thought he was in deep thought. No, in the fish tank. Dusty really is stone cold. And then Smitty the Welder. It's going to be all more heartbreaking when the Jets lose when it matters again. Smitty the Welder. You can't start saying that in Game 6 of the regular season. Come on. I mean, it's a great start. Then we'll take it. We know what happened last year with the Oilers in a terrible start. You can come past it. Oh, he's emerged. He's emerged from his You're trying. I know you're back. You're just trying to maintain the pose.
I was just messing with the buddy. I was going to see how long maybe I could go.
I had the benefit of seeing that you were in the thing, and then they were bringing you in again right now. So, anyways.
Okay, yeah, I guess I could. I don't. That was weird because I'm connected. I got two laptops. The one that I'm watching the show on YouTube in the Nasty Chat works fine, and the other, I don't know, doesn't make any sense. Tommy's on the way down here with more of a landline anyway. But anyway, Huss. So the 15 gamer yesterday, the 15 game parlay.
Yeah.
Game one ruined. The game starts. Washington's up 2-0 on Philly, like in the first period. I was like, oh, great. My 15 gamer's dead. That's nice to know. And I you know what? I looked back on it this morning, buddy. I went 4-11 on the 15 gamer. Like just completely off.
I mean, we were throwing darts. Yeah, I will say this. As well as I've been feeling for some of the other sports, it has been all over the place.
Hockey's been tough.
All over the place with the hockey right now. The 11 gamer. See, and I had Philly on that too. I was 4-7 in this one. Had the Penguins. They lost in OT. Did have Vegas, did have Ottawa, which was a nice one. Jets, Canucks. See, Colorado finally played an under. That was the one total. And then, and then I was just, as you froze, I was going to ask you about the Oiler game because, and Jake did say, we were giving it to the Leafs pretty good for getting pumped by Columbus for blowing the community parlay. That was when the Oilers were up 2-0. They, in fact, it's almost good that the Leafs lost because this would have been all on the Oilers losing it in OT. I mean, now you get a point. Carolina's a good team, but with the start, I think they're still waiting to really kick it into high gear. What happened last night with the squad in Northern Alberta?
I mean, first of all, it was a very entertaining hockey game last. The two best players on the ice, in my opinion, Stuart Skinner, Freddie Anderson. I mean, both those goaltenders last night were phenomenal. Reed Wilkins had a great line on our GCL Diesel postgame show last night. That was a 5-5 game that went into overtime, tied at 2. Like, there were so many great chances last night. Even saves that Skinner and Anderson didn't make. There was like wide open nets that were blown wide. It was a very entertaining game. But in the end, you had a 2-0 lead going into the third period, and you pissed it away, and then you lose in overtime with Sebastian Aho firing a one-timer home with like 6 seconds left. So it was kind of that game against Dallas. They played really well for 40 minutes, and then some critical errors ended up in the back of the net, and that's probably the first 10 minutes that they didn't score on, and Carolina kind of took the game over for probably like 15 to 20 minutes, and the Oilers sort of pushed back. But it was frustrating for fans last night because like Matthias Janmark had a puck behind the net, just sort of rimmed it around the boards to nobody. 4 seconds later, it's in the back of the net. They had a horrible breakdown. Odd man rush. Travis Dermott was caught up ice. Matthias Janmark again, who's usually kind of Mr. Reliable. He totally blows coverage, and there's an open door backdoor tap in. And then in overtime, the puck comes all the way around. Gostisbehere has it along the boards. Bouchard kind of goes over to cover him, doesn't cover him well enough. McDavid's thinking Bouchard might pop it loose, so he takes off out of the zone, and Marty Natchez is coming back into the zone. They flip it to him across to Aho, and he hammers it home. The one thing that probably stood out for me is I don't know how Natchez isn't like a superstar in this league. Like, whenever I watch this guy play, man, like he was controlling the play last night. I thought he was outstanding. And maybe he eventually gets there, but tough one. Now 2-4-1. And we talked about it with Craig Button, who was on this morning, Wyshynski a little bit as well. Like, Button came on today, ripped at their blue line. I mean, justifiably so. And they don't have a number 4 defenseman, so they keep rotating people through. Last night they moved Darnell Nurse to the right side, and I can't even remember the last time he played right side. And a lot of people are on the goaltender, even last night, which was ridiculous. I had a pretty impassioned rant about that this morning on the show. But the bottom line is one of the most dangerous offensive teams in the league has scored 14 goals in 7 games. Like, that's it. Like, they aren't scoring. Hyman still doesn't have a point.
I'm
Bouchard
looking at my hockey pool right now.
Yeah, I mean,
And there's a zero besides Zach Hyman, and it doesn't seem like that is
first 50-goal scorer ever to open up the following season with no points in 6 games. So I mean, it's going to come. Offensively, I don't think you really need to be concerned, but it's been tough so far. Let's just say that.
Big wins last night for the Canucks. I mean, they needed to take care of business against a team like Chicago after the start that they've had. Vancouver now 3-1-2 after being 0-1-2. They've won 3 games in a row. And you know what? You got to give it to the Calgary Flames.
Yes.
I know they don't get a lot of love around Edmonton, and they certainly don't get a lot of love around here, but they're finding a way right now. And, you know, and we'll see what happens. I mean, Saturday night, regardless of, the next game, both Winnipeg and Calgary could very well be in first place in their division. Dallas now has 2 regulation losses on the season. The Wild are 4-0-2. Who did they spank last night? They had, who did they beat 5-1 last night? Minnesota. Oh, Florida. They went into Florida and just spanked the Panthers last night. So Minnesota's doing it right now. But as far as the Canadian teams, I mean, Calgary's had a really great start. Vancouver's in a pretty good spot. The Oilers are just sort of, I mean, how long do you think this hangover is going to last actually for Edmonton? I mean, and I get why it is. I mean, last year was a lot more inexplicable just how bad things went and for how long that they went. But I mean, at what point do you think we'll see? I mean, kind of like the 15-game mark at that point, we can say, okay, like this team should be back.
I was gonna. It's a good question, and it maybe, but I mean, if it's a 15-game mark and they're 6-8-1, I mean, that's not that ideal. Their schedule so far. This is the concerning thing because I was gonna say, well, the schedule, but their schedule so far hasn't been that tough, and they still come out of the gate poorly. But they get the Penguins on Friday at home, then they go on a 4-game road trip, 3-game trip, and then probably come home for a couple of days, then go down to Calgary to play the Flames again. But they go out on the road to play the Red Wings, the Blue Jackets, and the Preds. Like that shouldn't be a daunting task for a team that was picked to win the Stanley Cup by pretty much everybody and their uncle around the country. So, I mean, if you can't go out on the road and take at least 2 of 3, I mean, I don't know how much longer the hangover lasts. It's the lack of finish. We know the blue line is going to be a concern. It's going to continue to be a concern until this is not the solution. They're going to have to come up with something else on the blue line. But like the offensive guys, what time are you going to go 10 goals without a game? I don't see a world where that happens. So somebody was in the chat today. I said yesterday, I think it was on the Nielsen Show or Oil Stream, like they're due for things are going to kind of get back to the mean. Their shooting percentage has been crazy low. I could see them pumping 7 past the Penguins on Friday. And then we'll see you head out on a reasonable road trip. Who knows? Maybe they take 3 or their next 4 or something along those lines. But I mean, it's been a piss poor start so far. You can't say it any other way.
Friday night, McDavid and Sid getting ready to team up in the Four Nations Cup.
You see the
I really want, I know we'll have a lot more time to talk about this going forward, but I want to see at some point in the best on best, Sid, McDavid, and Bedard on the same line. Like that.
I'll one up this. Let me give you a power play for Canada. Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid, Bedard, Makar. Think about that.
That sounds good. I think we could maybe get some. I think we could generate some quality scoring chances with those 5 men on the ice. Hey, you mentioned Skinner. I will say this, and again, I didn't see the whole game, but that 30 seconds before Carolina finally scored that first goal by Gostisbehere, he looked like vintage Hasek.
I know.
I mean, he was flailing around in his crease, doing everything he could to make the save. I felt bad that one went in on him because the fact that it hadn't gone in yet was one of the very cool sequences from that game. But of course, that was a goal that really sort of turned it around.
We are in that, and I mean, I guess the Jets were really good last year too, but we're in that phase right now here in Edmonton where like everybody's complaining about everything. So last night, Skinner, by far his best game of the season. I mean, it wasn't even close. It was the best game of the season. Both goaltenders must have stopped 6 or 7, 8 grade A's. It was a phenomenal night. I hop into the chat after, and there's people like the first comments in there are like, blow a 2-0 lead. Skinner's never going to be the guy. I'm like, did you watch the game? Like, he was their best player on the ice. And then somebody texted into Tommy's show last night and was just like, hey guys, I was on an LRT leaving the rink tonight, and people were chanting, the whole train was chanting, Skinner sucks. And I'm like, he was their best player. Like, it's just, I just tweeted out because we're talking, somebody just tweeted at me 12 minutes ago and said, all 3 goals on Skinner last night were simple one-timers. A save would have been nice. It's well known that Skinner is bought. So the one was a backdoor tap into Marty Natchez, which was horrible coverage. And the Sebastian Aho one-timer, if Leon Draisaitl scores that on a goalie, everybody in the city's going, it's an unstoppable shot. Nobody in the world's going to stop that. But Aho does it on Skinner, and boy, Skinner should have had it. Like, you should go back and watch my rants at 620 today, buddy. I was fuming with
tough crowd, Oiler fans. Tough crowd.
Awful takes we're seeing in this market right now, buddy. The whole city's become unhinged. It's kind of amusing, but at the same time, it's extremely frustrating. It's
a nice night off for everybody tonight. Get ready for a big game against Pittsburgh. I'll say this about Pittsburgh. They're a team with some big time superstars that are on the other side of the turn, if you will. They just don't have they don't seem to have the depth, the blue line. The goaltending's been a bit of an issue. Ned was in last night. He's going to get a few starts after Jerry's been so terrible to start the year. But they just look disjointed. Like, I do wonder how much pressure is going to be on Mike Sullivan. Because, like, listen, Dubas has put a lot into this team right now, trying to max everything they can get out of these years with Crosby. I think the Erik Karlsson acquisition has actually not been great, considering they already have Letang.
Yeah.
But there definitely is spots where you can take advantage of it. If the Oilers want, this might be a perfect time to get Pittsburgh, to get that Oiler offense popping. And as we mentioned, it's always fun to see 87 and 97 go head to head.
Just the one game in the National Hockey League tonight. Actually, before we get there, you did bring up Calgary. We had Wyshynski on this morning. He referred to Calgary as a bunch of morons because the only way that you're ever going to take the next step is to tank and get a high pick. And here they are looking like they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, this is going to come across as blasphemous. But watching the game last night, it's kind of a good vibe with the Flames last night. Like, I got to give them a lot of credit, man. Like, they
play their ass off.
They do. Like, they play their ass off. They've got these fun little stories that are developing early in the season. I mean, I'm not angry with it, but it's I'm interested to see how long it lasts. I mean, I don't expect them to be 12-0-2 at some point, but maybe they aren't a bottom 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 team.
I mean, they show that, hard work, playing together can overcome, talent. I mean, in single games, like, do we expect this team, if they were playing a best of 7 against some of the better teams in the West, to win? No. But, I mean, like, great stuff from Nazem Kadri early on, Michael Backlund, like some of the veterans, like the few veterans that are remaining, Blake Coleman as well. And then you've got, I mean, I hate Martin Pospisil. I think he's a complete cheap shot artist. But you know what? You don't mind having one of those guys on their team. And you know who quietly showed up in town and I think is in a lot of ways sort of part of this new ethos of the Flames is that Ryan Lomberg, who runs around, sometimes is a little bit of a rat, but man, plays with a ton of energy. I mean, there's a lot more talented teams that don't play with the oomph and the drive that Calgary is doing night in and night out right now. And, Calgary's cashing some teams. And listen, you have to think that at some point, Huberdeau is going to get going. He's had a much better start. Anthony Mantha, he's got a ton to play for right now. Coming over in the offseason as unrestricted free agent. And there's so many guys on that team, I think, that really have something to prove, that they're all pulling together. And it's funny. I mean, we kind of make this comparison to the Jets. And again, this is a very positive outlook. I mean, there's a lot of different ways the season could go. But, with the disappointment of the playoffs last year for Winnipeg after the regular season that they had, and bringing back pretty much the whole team, but with 5 guys, UFAs at the end of the year, a couple RFAs, and some really talented players that just barely missed making the team right out of the gate. There's a level of competition in the Jet lineup right now that I think is really bringing out the best in everybody, and especially for these guys that are on contract years. They've got so much to play for, because not only are you looking to win games night in and night out, but you're looking to set yourself up for another contract, whether it be here or elsewhere. So the mix is great in Winnipeg right now, and at least so far, it really does look like the Calgary Flames are on the way to exceeding many people's expectations that had them right down near the bottom of the league.
All right, you can text us anytime, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. It is the Lock Shop. I am live on location today. Kingsway Boston Pizza will be here for the oil stream. A few people already rolling in here as well. They've got the lunch menu ready to go for you today. Lunch-size pastas, the jambalaya fettuccine, baked 7-cheese ravioli, the creamy mushroom and spinach bake, and then, of course, the Boston Brute Sandwich is also. They got a new classic burger. Let's see here. Grilled quarter-pound patty topped with lettuce, tomatoes, onions, pickles, and our signature cactus dip on a burger. And that cactus dip can be spicy. So that sounds pretty tasty. So if you're in the Kingsway area or you want to swing on by, come on by. And we have the oil stream coming up at noon today. Has one game in the National Hockey League tonight after 32 teams playing yesterday. The Flyers and the Caps forced to go back-to-back tonight for, I guess, the prime time Wednesday night hockey game. Capitals are minus 147 favorites at home. Washington's kind of got off to a pretty good start this year, haven't they?
You know what? Not too bad. Not too bad. They sit 4-1 through 5 games. Yeah, they were one of those teams that didn't play very much. I mean, the Devils have played 9 games so far, and Pittsburgh's played 8. So they've got a little bit of catching up to do, and that's probably why they're playing in this game today. I think Philly's been better than 1-4-1. I mean, they've been in all of their games, although they weren't really last night. They've lost 5 in a row. I just had a good chat for WST with Jonathan Davis of West Coast Hockey.
Yep.
He's the VSiN NHL analyst, and he was actually in the VSiN studio there at the Circa Hotel down on Fremont. Check that place out next time you're in Vegas. Tough Unbelievable. But I was asking him about this game tonight, and he said, I like Washington in this game. And he said, Fedotov is in. He's played 5 games. I think in only 1, he's let in less than 4 goals. He kind of sold me on the team total for Washington over 3.5.
Yeah, because that's probably, is that a better number than the 147?
Oh, well, the money line is minus 147. The over 3.5 is plus 144.
Okay. Well, then.
So that'll be what I'm playing tonight. Let's see if the Caps can get some. Well, where's Ovi right now? Does he have anything so far?
He has 1 goal. I'm pretty sure. I know he's got 1. Let me see.
Tonight might be one of those nights. Let's see. What do we have for an Ovechkin goal here?
Actually, Ovi's got a goal and 3 assists. So he's got 4 points in 5 games.
You know what? I think tonight's the night for Ovi. I'm tapping him too. Plus 140 anytime goal.
Boom. There we go. Getting in on Ovi too. Anytime goal. The ATG for Alexander Ovechkin tonight. Huss, it's 11:31. We've buried the lead here. DeAndre Hopkins, Kansas City Chiefs. Victory lap for you right now, or where does it go?
Well, not a victory lap, but 2 years ago, we took an underutilized asset in Kadarius Toney, brought him to Kansas City, and he scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Last year, it was Mecole Hardman. taken off the scrap heap from the Jets, brought back into the fold in Kansas City. He scores the game-winning overtime touchdown in the Super Bowl. So I can tell you right now that if the Chiefs get to the Super Bowl, I will be hammering an anytime touchdown for DeAndre Hopkins. Listen, he's going to have 11 games to familiarize himself with the offense and Patrick Mahomes. Great route runner, established guy. I mean, he is 32. This isn't the guy that, you would be getting 5 years ago. But man, I mean, he's just been lost there in Tennessee. They have no quarterbacking. Their receivers are being wasted. So he comes in for a 5th rounder that can turn into a 4th. I mean, great deal by Brett Veach. He does it again. It's kind of funny. I had heard, there's a lot of smoke around Cooper Kupp for the last day or so.
Even with the Chiefs? I know there's Cooper Kupp smoke. Were the Chiefs linked?
Well, the Chiefs were right at the top of that list when they started talking about it because of their receiver needs. Now, they got Hopkins. I'm not sure how that would work with the cap or, exactly if that's even a possibility. I knew Adams really wasn't because of how much that he's due this year and next. Not that the Raiders were going to trade him to the Chiefs anyways. But yeah, listen, I think it's a big boost for a team that, could potentially come playoff time also get Hollywood Brown back. And listen, all this time for them to work with more of the younger tight ends and a couple of these other receivers. I hope they can get Nuke in quickly so we don't have to go through the charade of throwing the football to Sky Moore anymore. But I'll tell you what, he Nuke comes in, the guy can still play, incredible hands. And you just know that Mahomes is going to get him back to being a very, very productive receiver right now while they continue to chase history.
As for Cooper Kupp, looks like it's a year of moving receivers here, obviously, mid-season. I'm just looking at a bunch of different links as far as potential Cooper Kupp landing spots go. And there's a few interesting ones. The Chiefs were obviously on quite a few of these lists. I am seeing my Detroit Lions on some of these lists. Pittsburgh Steelers, somebody to play alongside George Pickens there. The Bucs with significant injuries to both Godwin and I don't think Evans is going to be back till after week 3. The Atlanta Falcons are mentioned because he's got some familiarity to the coaching staff there. I think I mentioned the Lions. Where do you think, Gus? Where do you think Cooper? Oh, Commanders alongside Terry McLaurin. Man, that'd be a nice. Oh, Jaden Daniels. That'd be pretty nice to be throwing to Terry McLaurin and Cooper Kupp. I could see them maybe getting in the mix with the nice start they've had. What do you think is the perfect landing spot for him? Or which team do you think should be pushing the hardest?
Well, Nuke on one side, Cooper Kupp on the other would look pretty good.
Oh, my God. If the Chiefs also get Cooper Kupp, I'm done with the season. I'm done with the season. First of all, you get all the calls, and then you get Cooper Kupp. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I'm not, I think, the Washington possibility is really, really intriguing because we know how good Jaden Daniels is. We know how accurate he is. Cooper Kupp might be the best route runner in the entire league. Having a guy as dependable and reliable as him play in and play out would be so big for them. The one thing, it is funny how the Rams are sort of throwing this out just as he gets healthy again. Because it really does seem like they're sort of punting on their season now. This was the season I think we all expect them to have last year when they overachieved and then made the playoffs. And I think a lot of people said, oh, well, they skipped the rebuild. Maybe not so fast. You lose Aaron Donald, and they're sort of looking like they're in next year territory. And Puka Nacua, I guess he's on the list to potentially come back in the next 3 weeks. But I think they'll sort of be done by then. So if the Rams do move on Cooper Kupp, whoever gets him is going to be getting the major difference maker if he can stay healthy. And I think that is a major concern of anyone buying. I'll be interested to see what the price for Cooper Kupp is. We've seen what Adams went for a second rounder.
It's got to be at least that.
I agree. Right? I would think so. But again, some of these prices being paid now.
It should be more than Devontae Adams. It's just from a on the field perspective, I think it's got to be more than that from Devontae Adams. So, did we have any significant live movement in the NFL yesterday? You know what we didn't look at yesterday? We were looking at player props and MVP props. Where are the Super Bowl odds right now?
Up-to-date Super Bowl odds. Here we go.
Chiefs plus 450, Ravens plus 575, and then the Lions at 8-1, the Bills at 9-1, San Francisco still at plus 950, and then there's a significant drop off. So it's kind of like a top two, and then the next three, and then a drop off to a bunch of teams. The Packers and Texans at 14-1, the Vikings at 16-1, the Eagles at 18-1, and then another drop down to the Commanders and Bengals in the 25 and 28 range, and then it's all beyond 33-1. I don't know. Any thoughts on that today, Huss?
Well, I mean, I just expanded it. So I'm just looking at teams like the Commanders are at 25-1. If you go below them, is there anybody like a long shot that might be providing good value right now? I mean, the Bengals at 28-1. I still don't think we've seen the best of them and their offense when they get going. I mean, they went toe-to-toe in that game with the Ravens earlier on this year. I mean, I don't think we can write off the Bengals just yet. Not really in on the Falcons. Definitely not the Bears. The Dallas Cowboys at 40-1 is funny.
I can't do it. Can't do it. Like,
no, definitely not. But Pittsburgh,
I don't think
Pittsburgh. But they have a championship level defense.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with Russie over the next little while. Anyways, I think Pittsburgh maybe should be a little closer to the Commanders. Like I think of them in that thing. But again,
Pittsburgh should be around the same as the Bengals, 28-1. Like in that range. Put them right in they're in that middle window there with the Commanders and Bengals. That's where they probably should be.
I agree. But let's face it, the Super Bowl winner is probably coming out of that first group of four teams. And actually, I'm going to include the Packers. I'm including the Packers, but I'm skipping the Niners. The Niners are, to me, the Niners are the most overvalued team on this list. They should be behind Green Bay. They should be behind Houston, maybe around Minnesota at 16-1. Although with the defense that Minnesota has and the wins that they've got, I mean, I think Minnesota should be ahead.
There's much more of a case for Minnesota to be ahead of the Niners right now in Super Bowl odds. I mean, I don't think I'm dropping them below the Eagles, so that's probably where they should slot in, between the Vikings and the Eagles.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you on that. I mean, obviously, I think the most likely outcome is either Kansas City or Baltimore winning the AFC and being the favorite in the Super Bowl. I think the Lions have established themselves clearly as the favorite in the NFC. And if you look at just the NFC odds, Detroit's at plus 350. For whatever reason, the Niners are still 4-1. Then you've got the Vikings at 6-1, Eagles 7-1, and then there's Green Bay at 8. And I still think that Green Bay, like right now, 8-1 for the NFC, 14-1 for the Super Bowl. I think that's the best value play right now. Now, again, I was pretty high on Green Bay and Jordan Love before the season started. The NFC North odds are, I mean, even with the great season that Detroit has, it's so tight. I mean, there's still plus money if you like the Lions to win the NFC North, plus 120. Vikings at plus 175. And then with a lot of head-to-head games left, Green Bay is still at 375 right now. So, we talked about it yesterday and on Monday. I mean, the three best teams in the NFC are all in the NFC North, in my opinion, right now. And I think that has sort of inflated Green Bay's odds. If you think that they can challenge with Detroit and with Minnesota when we get down to playoff time. Winning that division is going to be huge, though, because whoever wins is likely going to have a bye in the first round, assuming that they're the first seed.
Right now. Can you still
and then those other teams are going to probably be playing on the road as wild cards. So there is a lot at stake in these head-to-head matchups in the NFC North moving forward.
All right, it's Nielson and Huss with you here on the Lock Shop today. Huss, have you looked at the CFL lines? You probably looked at the CFL lines.
I just pulled them up. I didn't see them before. I guess Iwanek isn't there. I was trying to look at the list from last week for our season-long picks, because it's coming down to this week. I was in first. I have passed Glue Guy, who was way up earlier. And I'm pretty sure the three guys that are above 500 are myself, Glue Guy, and Lucas. Now, I went 3-0 last week, so I for sure have a game at least on one of those guys. But this is it, Dusty. We're coming down to the final week of the regular season. The season-long competition will be decided this weekend, and of course, where the West Final is played is also going to be determined this week. So, two of these games have a big one of these games has a lot of implications, and depending on what happens, the last one might matter, it might not, but it's being reflected in the lines. And I've actually seen the Bomber Alouette line already move during this. Now, I was trying to dig in. Are we getting anything? Have you heard any news out of Montreal as to how Jason Moss is going to be handling this game? Because I'm a little surprised to see the Bombers. They were 6.5. They're now 7-point road favorites against Montreal in this game on Saturday.
Sorry, Huss, you just cut out there on me. I don't know. I was having like a mic issue. What did you just ask me about Saturday? I heard you ask me about
I was
Saturday.
just saying, I mean, this Bombers were 6.5. Now they're 7-point favorites. Have you heard anything from Moss as to how Montreal is going to be handling this game, or a bunch of guys sitting? Because it seems like a big number to be laying on the road for Winnipeg. I think Dusty's got a mic problem here, so we'll go through it. Well, here are your CFL odds, everybody. Here's the final week here. We got a doubleheader on Friday. We got a doubleheader on Saturday. We start off with Hamilton and Ottawa. This game means nothing. Ottawa's 1.5-point favorites. Toronto at the Elks. This is basically a pick 'em. The Argos are minus 115 faves on the money line. The Elks are minus 105. Toronto minus 1. We'll be interested to get Dusty's take on this game because, of course, Edmonton's playing for next year. But this is their one final chance, I think, to make a statement to come back. Or, obviously it's one more opportunity to get a contract for next year, whether it be here or elsewhere. And then you've got Winnipeg at Montreal. This is the game the Bombers have to have after losing last week to Toronto. They win West Finals in Winnipeg at Princess Auto Stadium on November 9th. When we started the show, Bombers were 6.5. This is now 7. And then, on the other side of things, it's interesting is that Saskatchewan is only 3.5-point favorites against Calgary. Now, you would think that if that game matters, the line should probably be more like 9 or 10. But I think what this number is telling us is that it's likely that the Bombers will win. Obviously, they're a minus 323 money line favorite. And if that's the case, then the game does not matter for Saskatchewan. They know they'll be hosting the West Semi, and maybe some of their guys don't play because they'll be hosting the game next week. A lot of permutations going into this one, Dusty, for those last two games on Saturday, Winnipeg, Montreal, and Calgary, Sask.
I am very selfishly hoping that the Alouettes win so that I get to call a really meaningful game for the Riders and the Stampeders. The 7-point line is interesting because we said it, what did we say yesterday, Huss? Like, I just don't see Jason Moss just folding up and not dressing like any of his guys and being like, we'll just go into the East Final, having not played in 2 weeks and then losing back-to-back games in sad fashion. Like, I don't see Jason Moss taking the foot off the gas significantly enough. Now, I'm not saying the Alouettes will win because Jason Moss wants to win and they're going to try. But I just don't see him being like, okay, let's just mail it in here to the point that they're going to be a set. Like that's one of the largest home dogs of the season, even with the circumstances. So I don't know. I think the Bombers can win it just on the strength of Brady Oliveira anyway, but 7 at home for a team that does not want to limp into the postseason. I don't know. That seems weird to me. That seems too big.
I'm just looking. John Hodge has a article up right now on this at 3 Down Nation. And let's see. Montreal rested offensive starters Walter Fletcher and Austin Mack this past week in the
last week. Yes.
thumping that they got. The game was meaningless. Then he said it remains unclear how many players Jason Moss plans to rest this week, and they've just started practicing yesterday afternoon. So I don't know. For the Bombers, they don't really care who's in front of them. They just got to go and get that win. But I think this line, like, listen, if Montreal is playing their full contingent of players, the Bombers aren't laying 7 on the road. So I think the
chance.
situation is certainly tied into this, not to mention how important and what's at stake for Winnipeg. And that reflects in the Saskatchewan line. I mean, I would say that the Riders should be a much bigger favorite than the Bombers if that game was going to matter. But if the Bombers win, all of a sudden Trevor Harris probably doesn't play and a bunch of the key players for Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I still even think even if a bunch of those guys don't play, the Stamps are so bad that the Riders might still cover. Whatever the number is. Like that, Calgary's season has been like, I don't even know where they go from here. So we'll see what ends up. Happening there. If you're Vernon Adams, Huss, let me ask you this: if you're VA and the Lions come to you and say, "Hey, we've got situations that we like from both Calgary and Edmonton," you decide where you want to go. Where would you go if you're VA in the offseason?
Well, listen, it's a really hard question to answer just because, I mean, I guess my first question would be, well, okay, who's running the Elks? Who's the head coach of the Elks? Like all of that. And I mean, frankly, I'll ask the same question about Calgary. Like, we don't know. Like, I'd be shocked, in fact, if it comes back in the same structure that it is this year. Dickinson's still a coach. Does he play GM? Do they get new guys overall?
I think they'll take something. I think they'll take something off Dickie's plate, but he'll still be. I would think he probably is still head coach, and maybe they bring in somebody else to be GM. But that's a weird one to have, like, to be GM for a bit and then have it taken away and just go back to being coach, unless he really doesn't want to be GM anymore. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's a fair question for both. Like, who's running both of those organizations? I think weapons-wise, you got better weapons here in Edmonton. Now, there's some guys who'll be free agents, but yeah, I don't know, man. A good spot for VA to be in. I mean, he's
like, if it was right now, I think I'd rather be with the Elks. I mean, I think they've got a better team. I think they're actually showing some progression going forward, whereas Calgary's been in reverse. I'll hit you with this on the other side of this. If VA, and like after the way he played last week, I really hope the Bombers win, because I want to see Saskatchewan and BC go back at it again next week at Mosaic with VA at quarterback. Let's say they go in and that happens and they beat Saskatchewan, and then they come in, even if they don't get to the Grey Cup at home.
I know where you're going. I don't think it happens.
What are the chances that Nathan Rourke starts next season on a team other than the BC Lions, and they actually stay and keep VA? Like, listen, it's a very low number, but I think the number is greater than 0.
If it's greater than 0, it's like 2.
1 or 2%.
It's like 2%. I mean, they see what he was doing in 2022. And I think they're going to think, a full off season of being back on the CFL game and being focused.
I agree.
On the CFL game should probably, that's probably the way. Like, I'd have a hard time moving it even beyond 0. I just don't. And it's unfair to VA because he's a better fit for that team right now. But I cannot see a world where they go, no, Rourke's not the guy. Like, they were dying for Rourke to come back. Now he's back, and they're going to consider. Like, I honestly think VA wins a Grey Cup, and they say, "Thank you very much, a season to remember. Rourke's still the guy for the next 2 years." I think that'll be the case. I honestly believe 100% that would be the case. So somebody's going to get themselves a very good quarterback.
Yeah. Oh, I see Gazzola's got a beef dip in the background there.
I think that's a Boston Brute. Is that a Boston Brute?
Oh, the Brute?
This guy's doing a Boston Brute. I'm going to let him sit right over my shoulder and smash it before we do Oil Stream today. And then I know, but look, you're right on the camera. This is,
I got to admit, whoa, rocking the turtleneck today.
What do you think of his look?
I think it's great. The turtleneck's excellent. Although in a matchup of Boston Brute versus white turtleneck, the Brute will win every time.
Yeah, Tommy, did you think about that? Getting a Brute while wearing a white turtleneck? That's he's a ballsy guy.
Be careful with the bolo. Be careful with the bolo.
Did you get a salad too, Tommy? Coleslaw, gross.
Coleslaw. Man. You're not a coleslaw guy?
No, buddy, I'm not a guy. I'm not anything guy. I tried a black olive today for the first time on the show.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
I'm with you. I'm not an olive guy as well, but your list of things that you're not into, as I say, your lovely children have far more diversified palates than their old man do, and they're what?
Tommy's trying to hide behind me, but I keep moving.
6 years old.
So you know what else I tried last week for the first time? This one will blow your mind because it's a candy, but Score. I've never had a Score bar before.
Oh, what?
Yeah, first ever Score bar. And oh, look, Trev zoomed in.
Yeah. This is the Gazzola Brute Cam.
Yeah. Tommy, we're at Boston Pizza today. Let me plug that. Tom Gazzola crushing a full Brute. That's not even the lunch size Brute. It's a full Boston Brute before the show today. Only at Boston Pizza. We're the Boston.
I'm just fascinated as to how this white turtleneck is going to fare in the battle against the Brute.
For the Boston Brute today, it's $15. You get the Boston Brute, you get the side, Tommy with the coleslaw, and then you get a drink. $15. And if it's not ready in 20 minutes or less, your next lunch is it's free. So you can do that as well. It is the sorry, Trevor, or whoever's back there. I'm totally messing with you. Yeah, so swing on by. We're Kingsway Boston Pizza for Oil Stream coming up. Corey B's here. I see Tommy's got family and a table going over there. Mo's here. There'll be a bunch of people rolling in, so it should be a pretty good time today, right here. What's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk, Huss?
Well, we're going to talk about the big night last night in the NHL with Jonathan Davis, Murat Atesh on the Jets, and our buddy Lapo. Lapo's coming on, and we'll chop it up with Paul, find out
he's the best.
The decisions that await Jason Moss this week, what the Bombers need to do, and I'll get his thoughts on where the Lions are right now after going back to VA and looking a hell of a lot better than they had with Nathan Rourke.
I'm looking forward to the playoffs. CFL playoffs are going to be absolutely amazing. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to being one weekend. Well, depending on the weekends, I'll be in Regina one last time, Winnipeg last time, and then Grey Cup in Vancouver, where I'll be doing the radio play-by-play again this year. That should be pretty fun. When are you
going out to Vancouver for Grey Cup?
I think I'm flying out like late Wednesday night, early afternoon. So what I was thinking, I'm probably not going to do the morning shows just because it's so damn early, but I'm definitely wherever you're set up, live lock shops together Thursday, Friday.
Yes.
Of course, the Canadian Football League is what officially brings us together.
Down straight. Nice. Vancouver. Oh, it's gonna be fun. I'm very much looking forward to getting out there. I think there's a couple hockey games too while we're there. I think they're playing the Hawks maybe on the Saturday night. So, but anyways,
might be something to look at.
It's going to be all about the game. Well, because apparently they originally had a game
scheduled
going head to head with the Grey Cup at the same time.
Makes no sense. I don't know how that originally even got on the schedule, but whatever.
So I don't know what they did. What did they do with that game? Because I don't think they moved it earlier. Maybe they moved it later that night, or maybe they moved it to Saturday. I'm not really too sure. Good news, though, here in Winnipeg. And again, this is not a matter of counting ducks before they hatch, but
it's an 8 o'clock start now, Huss. So they moved it later.
Okay, that Jets-Dallas game on November 9th has been moved to 2 p.m.
Because of West Final possibility, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, either way, I mean, there's a lot of people that I think that will want to watch that game, so doing the game earlier is nice, but we've had a couple incredible Jets-Bombers doubleheaders. Maybe the most famous one was the Bombers-Riders West Final. That was the early December game when the season started late.
Yes.
Turnaround, jumped on the rapid transit afterwards, straight down to the arena, and walked in for Jets Leafs. So hopefully we'll be doing that again in reverse. The Jet game will somewhat be a little bit of a Bomber pre-tailgate party as well. Watching
that's
two
all,
of the
that's
best
all
teams
everybody
in the
needs
NHL.
in Winnipeg is a primer for a Bombers game. Like you're not priming enough already.
Exactly.
One last quick note before we wrap up Lock Shop today. The Lock Shop Poker Series event number 3 next Tuesday. Download the poker software. Just go to tournaments and search Lock Shop. You'll see it. You can pre-register if you want. The first two events have been absolutely amazing. We're very much looking forward to next Tuesday. I'll be streaming it again in a Halloween costume because it's 2 days before
Your mic just cut out.
Very much looking forward to that. So if you're not yet joined us, everybody who's in the last one's going to want to be back in this one.
Listen, I don't think anyone can hear Dusty right now.
Ready. Next Tuesday
I will
night,
tell
Lock
you.
Shop, poker series,
Poker tournament.
I see Tommy's. Your dad's here, right? He's
coming up.
Guy.
Oh, the mic's back. His mic's back.
Oh, was my mic out? I didn't even.
Yeah,
know.
your mic is actually. You might want to check this in between doing an oil stream. You cut out a couple times.
Yeah.
That's why I started talking. No one could hear you. But Tuesday poker tournament. Get in there. It is on. If you were in one of the first two, I'm sure you'll be back. We had a great time. If you missed it, join us next Tuesday. We'll have details on the Lock Shop, EST, and Winnipeg Sports Talk throughout the week.
My mic's out. Let's wrap.
Okay, now we can't hear him again. That's it for the Lock Shop, everybody. Hopefully Dusty's mic will work for the oil stream. That's coming up next on EST. And if you're watching from the PEG, head on over. Big Winnipeg Sports Talk coming up next. Either way, we'll see you tomorrow, 11 a.m. in Edmonton, noon here in the PEG on Edmonton Sports Talk for another edition of the Lock Shop, brought to you by our pals at Coolbet. Have a good one, everyone.